Welcome back to Illustrator Concept 1. Today we will talk about how to create shapes and what a stacking order is. The basic shape tools are organized in two groups in the toolbox. You will find them under the rectangle tool and under the line segment tool. And for our purposes, we will use the tear off option. So if you hold down the mouse button on the rectangle tool, for example, you will see all the tools that are associated with the rectangular tool. At the end is a tear off button, or indicated by a solid triangle. You click on it and all the shapes that were hidden underneath this tool are torn off, so they're more easily accessible. And because we will be working with it, we will tear them off so we can see them better. I will do the same with all the tools that are in the flyout menu of the line segment tool, so we see them all at a glance. There are two ways to create shapes. One is the central origin creation. For example, if I choose the elliptic tool and I hold down the Alt key, you will see that the shape of the cursor changes, and then you click and you drag, and the shape will be created from the inside out. This is one way how to create a shape. The other way, Nancy likes to call it the 11 to 5 option. For example, I choose the rectangular tool. I start at one edge, and if you picture a clock, that's roughly where the 11, the number 11 is on a clock, and then you drag it towards where the number 5 would be on the clock. So pretty much you drag diagonally, and you can see a shape appears, and that is the other way how to create a shape. So if I create a shape, let's use the polygon one, and I click and drag it. And while I still have the mouse held down, I use the arrow keys, and you will see that while I do this, the number of sides changes. So you can determine the number of sides that your polygon has just by using the arrow keys. So the number of sides in a polygon can be determined by the use of the arrow keys. It would be the same with a star. The number of sides can be determined by the arrow keys as well, as you can see. The arrow keys would determine in a grid the number of rows and columns, as you can see here. And for the rounded rectangle, if you use the arrow keys, they will determine the radius of the rounded corners. Should you prefer precision shapes, you can, let's say for the star, if you want to have a precision shape for it, you would click once on the page and a dialog box will come up. And in here you can put in the exact size of the star, how many points the star should have. But I put in 5 points. You click OK, and here you can see the star is created to the exact dimension that you set in the dialog box. If you want to size it proportionally, you would hold down the Shift key. For example, I'm gonna create a rectangle, And I want to kind of create it proportionally. So I would hold down the shift key, and as you can see, just by holding down the shift key, it would create a square instead of a rectangle. Right now I have a rectangular shape. If I hold down the shift key, it will create a square, so the x and y coordinates would be the same size. And I'm still holding down the mouse key, and as you can see, it would size it proportionally, either smaller or larger, but the x and y coordinates would be the same. You will use a stacking order for objects to overlap, and for you to be able to move objects, you have to, in the toolbox, go to the selection tool, because the object has to be selected. And you can tell if an object is selected if there's a blue line, as you can see, around it. You would click inside of the object, you would hold down the mouse button, and you move it on top of another object. Now, the top square is over top of the other square, which would create a stacking order. And the object that has been created last is on top of the stacking order. We created this square last, and it's on top of the other square because it was created last, and therefore it's on top of the stacking order. If you want to move an object in a line, as you can see here, like in a straight line, you would hold down the shift key, and the object would move across the x or y coordinate, depending which way you would move it. So now I will move the circle over here as well, and as you can see, because the square was created last as the top of the stacking order, so the circle is hidden underneath it. If you want to reverse the stacking order, for example, you would like to have the circle as a top shape of the objects you created, you would click on the circle so it's selected. There are two ways of doing it. You can right click with your mouse, and the dialog box will come up. You go to Arrange, and then you can go to Bring to Front. And as you can see, the circle moved from being behind the square, and now it's on top of the square. Or let's see, I want to have the big square in the front. I would select it. I can go to Object, in my menu bar, go to Arrange, Bring to Front, and it will do the same thing. So now I have different levels. One is on top, one is in the middle, and one is in the back. Let's see, I want to move the circle way to the back. Again, I can right click, go to Arrange, and you can say Send to Back. And now the circle is in the back, the small square is in the middle, and the big square is in the front. So let's bring this rectangle into the mix as well. So now we have 4 shapes stacked. And if I select the small rectangle with around the corners, go to Object, Arrange, Bring Forward, which will move it forward just one object. As you can see, before it was behind. I'm just going back here. Before it was behind the small square, and you have to select it first, otherwise you cannot change the stacking order. And now Bring Forward, it moved up one step. It's in front of the small square, but it's still behind the big square. And you will use this function of arranging objects, and you will use a stacking order when you want to create certain illustrations or pictures or designs. And in that part, it is important to know how the stacking order works and to use it to your advantage and create the designs you want to achieve. This is the end of this tutorial. In the next session, we will talk about how to set preferences, and we will give an overview of the hand, the zoom, the text, and the selection tools.